What's good, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? 8 of the strangest endings to an F1 race. I ain't gonna cap. Going back to Abu Dhabi, the last race of the previous F1 season. I would have never assumed it was going to end in like a little 1v1. I was thinking I was playing COD. I was watching COD for a second. A 1v1 to end that race. Of course, shout out again to Max Verstappen. But anyway, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are doing amazing, wonderful, stupendous. Love you guys and girls. First off, let's get into some of the F1 news. Red Bull did debut. They debuted their new car today. Looks nice. There is some difference to it. I've seen it. I like it. It's a really nice car. Very, very nice car. Hopefully that, of course, that will translate to the field, but very, very nice car. So I think right now we have Haas and Red Bull for right now. And also, shout out to Lando Norris for new 4-year contract with McLaren. Expecting big things from McLaren as well. You guys know your boy's new favorite driver is Charles Leclerc. But McLaren with Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris, going to be very, very interesting to see how that works out. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to the video. Let me know if I forget anything, any causes or concerns you guys may have. And let's go get started. So again, shout out to Lando Norris with
8 of the
the
strangest
new deal.
endings to an F1 race. After the ridiculously crazy finish we saw at the 2020 British Grand Prix, where Lewis Hamilton won the race with a front left puncture, it got me wondering, what have been other utterly bizarre finishes to a race? I know you've been thinking it too, so that's why we've created this video.
Don't point at me.
You probably won't believe half of these in this video, but trust me, they definitely happened. Here are 8 of the strangest endings to an F1 race we've ever seen.
Also, I ain't got to tell you the shirt I was wearing. I am Black History. It's a nice little shirt. Also, you guys know it's Black History Month. So, in the US, if you guys care or not, I don't really. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to show that off.
This has to be one of the most famously bananas race finishes in F1 history. Multiple drivers had the chance to win the race in the closing laps, only for fate to intervene every time someone looked set to take the lead. It had been a fairly uneventful Monaco race for much of the distance, with Alain Prost leading most of the way for Renault after teammate René Arnoux had crashed out of first earlier on.
That's not good.
Then, coming out of the harbourfront chicane, he crashed out as the combination of a light sprinkling of rain and oil dripping out of the gearbox of Derek Daly's Williams made areas of the track rather slippery. Ricciardo Patrese took over the lead, only to spin and stall at the Lowe's hairpin on the very next lap. Didier Pironi then took over at the front, but going into the tunnel on the final lap, his Ferrari coasted to a halt, out of fuel and out of the race.
Wow.
Andrea de Cesaris would have taken the lead, but his Alfa Romeo also ran out of fuel at the same time. While all of this was going on, Patrese had managed to use the hill at the hairpin to roll enough for him to bump start his Brabham and get going again. By this time, he'd clearly developed some kind of immunity to the curse of leading, and he kept going to take his first win. Despite not finishing, Pironi and de Cesaris were far enough ahead to be classified second and third. The 1964 Belgian Grand Prix.
But, never mind. You ain't finished the race, but I guess. I guess. That's weird. Every guy who was in first that race had a fuel malfunction, crash. Hey, first place was cursed that day.
Another race which had a finish in the same vein as Monaco 82 was the 1964 Belgian Grand Prix, which took place on the old, fearsome, long version of Spa. Dan Gurney had led most of the Brabham and looked set to give the team its first win. Behind him there was a right old ding-dong battle between Graham Hill and Jim Clark for second place.
Rest in peace, Jim Clark.
Around Spa's 8.7-mile lap, with Bruce McLaren occasionally joining the fray. Unfortunately,
hold up, Bruce McLaren. So I'm assuming that's where the McLaren team brand name came from. That's from Bruce McLaren. I think I like that. If that's true, let me know. But I think I might have cracked the little puzzle I was always thinking about.
Clark, the frantic battle was taken.
But at the same time, one of y'all probably said already.
25. It was overheating, so with 5 laps to go, he pitted to have his radiator topped up with water, dropping him to a distant 4th. That left Gurney leading comfortably from Hill and McLaren. However, Gurney was having problems and slowed down so much that Hill took the lead with just over 2 laps to go.
Oh no.
Gurney pitted and asked for more fuel, suspecting that to be the problem. But the team didn't have any to hand in the pit garage.
Oh my god.
They took a look at the tank and figured he'd probably have enough to get to the end, so sent him back out. Now running third, he was back up to pace and halfway around the final lap was in the process of passing McLaren for second when, predictably, his Brabham ran out of fuel. McLaren himself was nursing his car around the final lap because his battery was running out of power and the fuel pumps were struggling to do their job, though he had plenty of fuel in the tanks. With Gurney out, McLaren rounded the next corner at Stavelot, only to see leader Hill out of fuel and pushing his car.
No way.
Like Bruce, he too had the fuel, but his fuel pumps had packed in and dropped him out of the race. Despite his own issues, that left McLaren with a comfortable lead over Clark and he looked set to take the win. Up at the finish line, officials were wondering where the winner was. The flagman mistakenly waved the flag at 2 different back markers, expecting one of them to be the leader, who was apparently nowhere to be seen. Eventually, McLaren rounded the final corner at the source and rolled towards the finish line, literally. Going into the last corner, his engine had finally given up and he only had his momentum and the hill to carry him to the line. He could see the flag, but unfortunately, he also saw Clark's Lotus roar past to snatch victory. Jack Brabham was a distant third. But the drama wasn't done with there. Clark hadn't realised he'd won and carried on to do a lengthy slowing down lap, only to run out of fuel himself.
Oh my god.
Teammate Peter Rundell had to drive off and retrieve him so that he could celebrate the third of what would become 4 consecutive Spa wins. The 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix, an incredibly wet race which saw a number of drivers, Antonio Bizzonia, Juan Pablo Montoya, Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button, all spin out of the race thanks to a
Jenson Button
going across the track at turn 3.
2000.
That was mad enough, but the way the race finished was so mad that the race result was actually wrong, and the true winner wasn't crowned until days later. Kimi Raikkonen was up at the front after long-time leader Rubens Barrichello had yet another home race mechanical failure, only for the Jordan of Giancarlo Fisichella to surprisingly pass him for the lead. At the start of the race, he'd filled his tanks right up to the brim with fuel and had yet to pit. Shortly after he had taken the lead, Mark Webber binned his Jaguar in a big way at the top of the hill. Unsighted, Fernando Alonso charged around the corner, perhaps a little fast for the double-waved yellow flags, and crashed into a
Damn!
making it an even more massive accident which caused the race to be red flagged and not restarted. In such a scenario, the race result gets counted back 2 laps, which meant the results went back to the end of lap 53, making Raikkonen the winner from Fisichella and Alonso. Apart from the fact that Fisichella's car caught fire in Parc Ferme, that's not so weird, right? Wrong. There had actually been some confusion over exactly when the red flag had been shown, and a few days later it was discovered that Fisichella had just started his 56th lap when the race was stopped.
So he won it.
That meant the result should have been taken from the end of lap 54, making Fisichella the winner with Raikkonen second. The matter went to the FIA Court of Appeal, and 5 days after the race had finished, the final order was confirmed. Fisichella first, his first win and Jordan's last, Raikkonen second and Alonso third, and Fisichella was handed the winner's trophy in a ceremony at Imola the next race.
Look how young
Since
Kimi was.
stood on the podium in Brazil in the wrong order.
Young Kimi. Look out. My man, young Kimi.
And with Alonso absent due to having a trip to the medical centre, it makes the podium for the 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix perhaps the most incorrect of all time. The 1959 United States Grand Prix.
Kimi actually smiling.
The first United States Grand Prix was held at Sebring in 1959 and had the honour...
Where the fuck is Sebring at? Listen, I know my states. I know my cities. I ain't never heard of no Sebring. I'm guessing that's in what, Indiana?
Being the last
well,
race
just a guess, just a guess.
The championship battle being a 3-way showdown between Jack Brabham, Sterling Moss and Tony Brooks. Moss led from the start, but his chances ended after just 5 laps when the gearbox on his Cooper broke. That left Brabham in a comfortable lead, which basically assured him of the championship when, coming out of the last corner on the last lap, he ran out of fuel within sight of the line.
That's been the common theme.
For Brabham, in order for Brooks to win the championship, he'd have had to win the race, and had been delayed several minutes earlier in the race after being hit by his own Ferrari teammate, Wolfgang von Trips.
Wolfgang.
Instead, Brabham's teammate Bruce McLaren had been closely following him for much of the race, so he waved him on to take the win, a result which made McLaren the youngest winner in Formula One, a record he held until Fernando Alonso won the 2003 Hungarian Grand Prix. Brabham, determined to finish, pushed his car over the line to finish 4th, winning the World Championship. The 1970 Monaco...
Hey, that's hard. Yeah, he came in fourth, but he's still in the championship. Just push that bad boy over. That's impressive. That's impressive. Shout out to man McLaren for becoming the youngest driver to win a race until Fernando Alonso. That's pretty cool. That's interesting. Listen, I don't know how heavy those cars were back then. So, but for him to seem like he just did it by himself. But like I said, I don't know how strong the car was. So, but if he was able to do it by himself, it couldn't have been that heavy.
Brabham was involved in another unusual finish at Monaco in 1970, his last season in F1. Despite being 44 years old, he was still a force to be reckoned with and had led most of the race. Jochenrin was running second and catching him quickly, but heading into the last lap, Brabham had surely enough of a gap to take the win. However, going into the last corner, which in 1970 was a simple hairpin, Brabham slithered wide in the braking zone. He locked his brakes on the dusty part of the circuit and slid into the bails, letting Rindt through to take the win. Brabham recovered to finish second, with nothing hurt but his pride. The 2002 United States Grand Prix.
That's tough.
Ferrari had made a big mess of team orders at the Austrian Grand Prix earlier in the year when Rubens Barrichello gave up victory to Michael Schumacher right at the finish. But what happened at Indianapolis during the US Grand Prix was arguably even more embarrassing. Schumacher had led from Barrichello the whole way in Ferrari's typically dominant fashion. When coming off the banking for the final time, Schumacher suddenly slowed. Barrichello drew alongside and they crossed the line first and second. When the timing screen came up, it was Barrichello who had won by just 0.011 seconds.
Wow.
To this day, the reasons behind what happened aren't completely clear. Was it just a formation team finish that went wrong? Were the team trying to orchestrate a dead heat? Or most likely, was Schumacher trying to give Barrichello back the win he should have had in Austria? Either way, it was a really clumsy and slightly farcical way for a race to finish.
Yeah, that's a
1991 Brazilian Grand Prix.
It's a weird way.
By 1991, Ayrton Senna had pretty much achieved everything a driver can achieve in F1.
Rest in peace.
Except for one thing, an elusive home victory. At Interlagos that year, he took pole and led most of the way, fending off Nigel Mansell's Williams in the process. But as the race neared its end, his McLaren, still running an old-school H-pattern manual gearbox, developed a problem.
Oh my god.
It kept jumping out of fourth gear.
Oh
Mansell
yeah,
started gaining
I think I remember this. I think I do remember this one. My man was basically handicapped the rest of the race and still won it, which is astonishing. Because I think like he was stuck in fourth gear, like I think something broke off, but he still won it. That just shows, man.
Rapidly, but with
Senna to go.
a gearbox problem of his own caused him to spin out. That should have eased things for Senna, but instead they got worse. His car lost third and fifth gear as well, and he was forced to drive the remaining laps not only in sixth gear, but by using his hand to physically hold the gear lever in place.
Oh, jeez.
But wait,
I guess I was wrong.
Ricciardo and other Williams was taking huge chunks out of Senna's lead as the Brazilian lost as much as 6 seconds a lap with his problems. Oh yeah, and as if Senna didn't need any more things to worry about, it also started to sprinkle with rain. Then Senna finally had a bit of luck. Patrese' pace was slowed by a gearbox glitch of his own, while the other McLaren of Gerhard Berger in third, who was definitely within striking distance, lost pace with a sticking throttle. Senna and his car held on to win by just 3 seconds, screaming in pain as he did so. The effort of having to hold the car in gear for so many laps had cramped his shoulder. He was so exhausted that he had to be helped out of the cockpit and was driven to the podium in the medical car. But it was worth it. Clearly still in pain, he mustered up enough strength to lift the trophy and wave the flag in front of the thousands of fans who'd waited so long to finally see him win on home soil. The 1993 Italian Grand Prix.
Imagine that, to win your first race and like that. Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why I thought I knew he was in a different gear, because I remember he started having issues with his car. I don't know why I thought the shit came out. Yeah. Yeah.
Lewis
But shout out to
crossing
Senna
the
though
line
for
on
that.
3 tyres is unusual, yes. But how about crossing
What
on
the?
no tyres? Because that's kind of what happened to Christian Fittipaldi at Monza in 1993. Coming up to the finish line, he followed Minardi teammate Pierluigi Martini to finish 8th. Martini, perhaps unaware of how close behind Fittipaldi was, lifted off the throttle. Fittipaldi's front wheel clipped Martini's rear wheel, and he did a spectacular backflip across the line. Amazingly, he pretty much landed, still pointing in the right direction, and skidded to a stop. Unhurt and without losing any positions, in what must be the most spectacular 8th place ever. There you have it, 8 of the craziest finishes to an F1 race.
Okay, well, all these were crazy. We've had fuel issues. My man getting flipped in the air and still managed to finish the race. We had a push car to finish the race. They come in fourth. Obviously, his car was basically glitched. Man was handicapped, like I said. I don't know if you don't know the Schumacher thing. That's wild. Absolutely wild. But anyway, in the whole Kimi Räikkönen thing, a couple of days later to find out who won that race. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and sub, and we will see you guys later.